That's
setting up
exactly what she's doing, because
within
all
the
of the
male gaze.
correspondence that she gets comes from men.
Maybe that's a problem with the men who are reaching out, who
It's
themselves
got nothing
actually
to do
don't
with the men.
understand
It's got
boundaries.
nothing to do with the men. Women should not be posting salacious photographs of them online when they're in a committed relationship. It's wrong.
Well, we disagree. And ultimately, I think that's the core of the problem. You don't get to control what men or women choose to do. You don't get to control how
Correct.
women or men
And if
choose
she
to
doesn't
develop
want
in
to
the world.
comply, then she can leave.
I think that
It's very
I think
simple.
words like
I don't want to be in a
comply.
relationship with a woman that's posting provocative photographs online. She can
And that's
find
kind
a
of
guy
the
that's
pointy
willing
end
to
of this
accept
harm,
that.
is that people don't, we're not living in a world where people say, well, this is what I want and this is what I need, and here are my
Well, if
boundaries.
women want
Actually, what
leaders,
we
if they
see
want strong
is the
men,
way
then they
that
have
they
to be
enact
willing to
their
comply and
position is
accept
through
his
violence.
boundaries. It's very simple. It's just a boundary.
Yeah, I think the problem is that women don't want leaders. They want partners and equals. Like
No, they
language
don't.
like leaders.
They say
and
that.
Language like
They say that, but they routinely divorce partners that they marry.
Can I just make a point here? I think that this is some of the problems for us here in Aotearoa, with some of these kind of imported ideologies that really don't have a place for where we are in the world and where we've come from. And there's definitely decolonized and Indigenous critiques around some of these gender roles that are promoted in the manosphere or in other content that's adjacent, that kind of makes us think that these gender roles are universal or natural, and they're simply not. And we would view them as an extension of kind of colonial patriarchy. This is a system that's replaced our Indigenous relational models, that are in opposition to these rigid, hierarchical, male-dominated norms. And we know that our pre-colonial gender roles were often more fluid, more equitable, and very much what Richie's talking about in terms of partnership. We talk about being tough, and we talk about violence, we talk about power. And when you're having power over people all of the time, that's simply not okay. And that what we see in the real world outside of the digital spaces is the top end of that ends up in fatality for too many people.
That's not an accurate statement whatsoever.
What's not, Richard?
None of it. You can completely sit in front of a woman and say, look, I'm not going to take you seriously or commit to you in a relationship if you're posting sexy photographs on Instagram. It's simple.
Yeah.
If that's something you'd like to do, find another guy, because that's not what I'm about. So I'm not sure where we're coming up with these stories about men controlling women or any of this nonsense.
Well, one of your tweets is one of women's great failures is failing to realize the cost of true love is giving up control to the man. What do you mean by that? Women should give up control to
There's only one driver's seat in a car, isn't there? Right? So there has to be somebody leading. There has to be somebody leading that.
Why does it have to be the man?
Direction.
Why does that have to be the
when
man?
it's the woman does it? Well, I mean, we've tried this experiment for several decades now where we've had women try to lead, and women hate leading. There's nothing that disgusts or women despise more than a guy that can't lead.
So Margaret Thatcher, Jacinda Ardern?
Margaret Thatcher is an outlier, and we don't know the details of her relationship with her husband, do we?
I struggle a little bit when I hear you saying what women do and don't want, Richard, and I'm thinking, gosh, who are the women that you're mixing with? Because these aren't the things that I want. I don't want a man with a capacity for violence who's able to control it.
So who's going to take care of the bad guy when they break in your house? It's men that are called upon when there's a bang in the night. Men are the disposable sex. They've always been the disposable sex, and they always will be disposable. They are expected to step up and do things like this. Women aren't. Women don't do it. We are lying to people watching this right now, telling them that women have the capacity to deal with the bad guy when they break in the house.
No, I think you're correct in saying that men, on average, are physically stronger, more predisposed to violence, an ability to violence, and an interest in violence. But that's not your sole worth as a man, and nor should it be. Like, if you only think that, pardon me?
I'm not saying that, though.
No, but you seem to have an emphasis on very essentialist ideas about masculinity or what it means to be a man. And I'm trying to say, look, these are the whole range of traits and attributes that boys and men need to develop in order to look after themselves and the people around them.
I'm not disagreeing with any of that.
Okay, well that's great. Like, I appreciate that. So I'm suggesting, instead of saying men have to be tough, have to be hard, have to be the leader solely, how do we expand what it means to be a man? So it's not just this very limited box that many of us have been trapped in. Like, I work with guys from prison. I work with men who are survivors of violence and men who are perpetrators of violence, like quite serious violence, up to homicide and rape. And it's not an absence of masculine ideals that has led them to where they are. It's actually just a very soul grasp of that because they haven't been shown other ways of dealing with life. I'm asking you, how do we
What's your
help
solution
men?
to all of this?
Well, yeah, that's a good question. I appreciate you asking it. I think slow, long-lasting cultural change is what we need, and we all need to cross bridges and be part of that cultural change. How do we help our boys who grow up without a father, which many of our boys do, know that you're not going to find your answers in the streets, that you're not going to find your answers in a gang, that you're not going to find your answers.
Well, I have a solution to that. If you want to talk about boys without fathers, we can certainly go down that rabbit hole because 43% of households are raising children without the father around. You need to return the father to the household. There's not a problem with toxic masculinity. There's a complete absence of masculinity is what it is. And for most guys, it starts in the household when they're growing up, not having a strong masculine male role model around because they're often removed.
Kyla, you're shaking your head.
I don't know. I'm just sitting in the sadness of what the world feels like when we talk about it in these ways. In New Zealand,
Isn't it a problem, Carla?
Well, in New Zealand, we have the Dunedin study, right, which is that long-term study looking at a cohort of population, over the course of a lifetime. And one of the things they found is actually the ability to regulate your emotions is one of the best predictors of long-term well-being for people. And I worry that a lot of these conversations and attitudes, actually what we're doing is taking away the tools for boys and men to regulate. As humans, we're
Which
wired
you're taking away by
connection,
removing
right?
fathers from households.
Well, I think that it's not that simple. And often some of those fathers might be removed from households because those households become unhealthy if there's violence in that
I don't buy
home or
that.
if there's abuse in that home.
In the vast majority of cases. So if you look at a lot of the data.
All right, guys, I really hope that you enjoyed that clip. If you want to check out the full-length podcast episode, you can find that right over here. Also, make sure you visit my website over here where you'll find my supplements, the opportunity to book me privately one-on-one for coaching, and most importantly, my new School of Unplugging, which you'll find on the courses tab. Newer to the channel, hit subscribe.